NFL Live, where we've got updates on some key wide receivers. George Pickens of the Cowboys expected to get the franchise tag before the March 3rd deadline. That'll keep him in Dallas at least another year, and they work on a long-term deal. Tyreek Hill is a free agent for the first time after being released this week by the Dolphins. Hill played in only 4 games this past season after dislocating his knee in Week 4. Turns 32 this weekend. And Mike Evans will return for a 13th NFL season in 2026 after an injury-plagued season saw him play a career-low 8 games. Evans currently a free agent and turns 33 in August. I want to go back, though, to George Pickens. RC, how difficult do you think getting a long-term – we ask this about the Cowboys and somebody every year. How challenging is it going to be to get a long-term deal done with Pickens?
I mean, are you going to be able to get Tracy Morgan to stick to the script when he comes on later? Because that's about how difficult I think this is going to be. What I know is this. The Dallas Cowboys are going to franchise George Pickens. But Pickens' agent, David Mulligetta, once famously told me, I'm never taking $9 on 10, and most of the time I want 11. And that's exactly how George Pickens will approach this deal. Not like he's the 1B, not like he's an elite 2, but like he's the number 1 wide receiver on this team. And so Jerry will not have the opportunity in this sense to say we don't need the agent, because they will need the agent. George Pickens went out and proved how well he can play. He kept his nose clean away from some of the antics that we saw in Pittsburgh. And so now we'll see if he's able to get the money that he's earned.
Well, look, we always try to stick to the script in football and talk about the game on the grass. Look, this thing is the boost your earning potential. And that's what George Pickens did this year. He boosted it in a way where he is going to be the number 1 receiver for somebody if he's not getting number 1 receiver money in Dallas, and rightfully so. Like, he came from Pittsburgh. We saw the potential. RC went on record saying this dude had more talent than most of everybody in the NFL, and he put it on display this year. He was a big part of what Dallas did offensively. Dak loves him. We saw Dak at the Pro Bowl. He talked about we got to get George Pickens back. So I don't think – I'm with you, RC. And let me let America know something. When RC sitting like this and doing this, and he goes, something about to be hard. Something about to be hard. Like something is going to be very difficult for somebody to do, or he finna crash out on somebody. So look, this may become a very contentious negotiation because George Pickens increased his earnings potential, and we know who his agent is, and we know the value, first and foremost, of a number 1 wide receiver and how teams look at that in this modern football.
Talent never in question with George Pickens. He put it all together this past year, career highs in catches, yards, and touchdowns. We will obviously continue to monitor that situation throughout the offseason. Cowboys have made changes on the defensive side. Matt Eberflus out as defensive coordinator. Christian Parker in. Parker, most recently the Eagles passing game coordinator and defensive backs coach. Here's what he had to say about his plans for the Dallas defense.
You want to have your core principles and foundational beliefs, but as you kind of move forward in the process, what do your guys do well? How can you put good players in highlighted positions? How can you create one-on-ones for certain guys? How you can protect certain guys? If we can win on blitzes on a running back, then we're going to blitz a lot. If we got good man-to-man corners, we're going to play man. If we have guys that are better with zone vision, we're going to play more zone. So, you want to build a package that has diversity and scheme, and then you want to, tailor it to the players.
Nowhere to go but up for the Cowboys defense. They allowed the most points per game of any team in the league this past season, and the most the Cowboys have allowed in any season since 1960, which was the first year of their existence. Third down defense also the worst in the NFL. So, Marcus, a lot of work to be done to fix this defense. How should the Cowboys approach this offseason? Yeah.
Let me be serious, all right? Because I think it's more.
Didn't like the research notes.
The research notes were awful. Okay, I didn't expect that, so I had to recover from that. Christian Parker has a lot on his hands, and first and foremost, this offseason is the most important part for his defense. It's about acquiring personnel that can execute the scheme that he talked about. It's about making sure that you build this pass rush. We know what this league is about. We know it's no coincidence that the teams we saw in the last games and in the playoffs, they were getting after the quarterback and they were making plays from a defensive standpoint. So that is what he's going to have to try to build. I think you have a centerpiece there with what they were able to do with Quentin Williams. I think you have an opportunity for DeMarion Overshawn to come back and be a budding player that we saw a lot of potential, but the secondary has to get fixed. And I'll let RC lean into that. But more importantly, you have to feel like you have the right personnel in order to execute all of those things that Christian Parker said. So this will be about Jerry. This will be about Will McClay. It'll be about Steven. It'll be about that brass making sure that they get the personnel. I think Max Crosby, if in any way they can acquire him, I think that should be on the table. And I think Tariq Woolen should be on the table from Seattle as well. Those are two players that I think would change immediately the identity of this offense. And you talk about pairing Max Crosby alongside with Quentin Williams, that is the potential to be a dominant front when you start talking about the way that you have to play football now.
I tell you what, Graz, if this team could add Reek Woolen and Max Crosby, the difference in talent of this roster immediately changes and increases. And if Jerry Jones is willing to be that aggressive, I believe that's something that he should also do. I had a conversation with Jerry. For some reason, he really likes me, and I really like him as well. We couldn't be more different. But Jerry Jones was telling me that he felt he put this defense in a bad position last year. He said he was trying to recreate the former head coach defensive genius that was experienced when he hired Matt Eberflus, when he hired Mike Zimmer. And he said he wanted to go away from that. He wanted to really dive deep into the interviews, and that's why he came up with Christian Parker. He wanted that sort of enthusiasm. He wanted that sort of young energy and also a creative mind. Now, what's going to happen is he's going to have to understand he doesn't have the same pieces that you had in Philadelphia, where you could get after the quarterback with 4, could bring simulated pressures, adding Nakobe Dean, and sometimes having some pressure from the back end. You played a very vanilla defense from a secondary and coverage standpoint in Philadelphia. I don't believe you have the roster to do that right now in Dallas.
RC Graz, I was thinking about something, as you said, RC, which is why I always love doing TV with you. I think Schottenheimer changed the way that Jerry thinks about going about a championship. And I know that's saying a lot from a coach that has been in his first year. But the aggressive nature in which he played with, the way he was able to put pieces together from that side of the football, the year that Dak Prescott had under a first-year head coach that was calling plays, there is a feel of a reinvigoration around Dallas. And usually we attribute that to the players, but this is attributed to the head coach. I thought Schottenheimer did a phenomenal job. We saw him navigate real-life tragedy. We saw him navigate football. And now from a defensive standpoint, I think that in line with what Jerry told you, RC, is a direct correlation between what Schottenheimer brought to this football team. Young, enthusiastic, a different way of playing and a different approach, and it may pay dividends for them sooner rather than later.
Yeah, good reviews on Brian Schottenheimer after year 1 out of Dallas. They just need some more players to fix that defense. We have more coming your way on NFL Live. Tracy Morgan will be here in studio. He's a former high school running back, and he had some surprising news to share with us on his familial ancestry.
Who was the sweetest?
Man, I wish I was in the studio, man.
Tony Dorsett, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Tracy had